Civilizations are not accidents. They are formed, directed, and preserved by vision. Vision so compelling that others shape their lives around them. These visions are not consensus driven. They come from those who stand apart, who risk rejection, and impose a form upon chaos. Again and again, across geography and across era, men have filled this role, not because they are better, but because society trained them to face ruin and isolation, and to pursue what others would not. And what results is not merely dominance, it is architecture. Societies are patriarchal because they are founded on the visions of those who could withstand the cost of leadership. Hello, I'm Gene with the Gildrum. Before we begin, be sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel to usher in a new era in the arts. At the heart of every lasting society is an image. Not a blur of feelings, not a compromise, but a precise image of what must be. Vision orders the chaos of the world. It gives meaning to sacrifice, hierarchy to the shapeless, and purpose to strength. Without it, institutions collapse into administration and the soul of the nation withers. The act of vision is not passive. It demands rupture. It requires that someone reject what is common, turn from what is familiar, and walk into ridicule, exile, and often death. History does not remember the agreeable. It remembers those who separated themselves long enough to see something no one else did, and returned strong enough to make others see it too. This kind of person has always been rare, but the traits required to become one, stoicism, imagination, a willingness to be hated, have, in most societies, been cultivated most thoroughly in men. From youth, men are cast into rivalries and trials. Their strength is tested, their resolve mocked, and their value measured by how far they're willing to go alone. Through this, the few emerge who are willing to carry the burden of a binding vision. That is the root of patriarchy, not cruelty or exclusion, but the social fact that the ones prepared to defy the many have tended to be men. Not always, not inevitably, but often enough to shape the foundation of entire civilizations. The person who sees the future first is, for a time, alone. He must endure mockery, misinterpretation, and above all, abandonment. He cannot belong and lead simultaneously, not in the beginning. The cost of vision is loneliness. To create the image around which a people will cohere, he must reject the comfort of those people. He must look at his tribe and say, "We are not enough. We are lost. I see what we must become." This is not a role often thrust upon the agreeable. Those who fear being cast out will not speak in tongues the village does not recognize. And so society teaches its young, especially its young men, not to fear exile. Boys are thrown into arenas, games, tests, rivalries, not to create cruelty, but to temper their ability to face rejection and persist. In this way, the adolescent male becomes a candidate for leadership not through kindness, but through endurance. This is not to say that women lack imagination or courage. It is to say that society has not demanded of women the same training in solitude. The girl who departs from the herd risks something deeper: intimacy, safety, trust. And so, more often, she stays. And the boy, if he is foolish and gifted, wanders alone until he returns as prophet or perishes. Patriarchy is not a plot, it is a consequence. The consequence of who we send into the wilderness and what we expect them to bring back. Once vision is formed, it must be imposed. This is where courage becomes command. For society to cohere, someone must say, "This is the way." Not because everyone agrees, but because the vision leaves no room for alternative paths. The act of founding a civilization is not democratic, it is artistic. A singular judgment shapes the whole. This is the role men have historically filled. Not because no woman could, but because the role demands a brutal consistency, a defiance of contradiction, a refusal to entertain every competing voice. The leader must become unyielding. He must be feared, not simply admired. Admiration wins followers. Fear wins permanence. Male leadership is not gentle, but its harshness is not cruelty. It is the hardness required to bind the soft. Women have often preserved the inner life of civilization, its compassion, its memory, its care. But the outward shape, the frame, has usually been forged by men who were willing to break, suppress, and construct without apology. The reason is structural. The vision maker must appear larger than life, and men, trained from youth to compete for dominance, often aspire to that height. They form hierarchies quickly, enforce order ruthlessly, and kill doubt before it spreads. The patriarch is not a husband, he is a founder, and once his vision takes root, the society becomes his cathedral. The laws repeat his form, the schools carry his voice, the rituals echo his first act of defiance. This is how patriarchies endure, not by decree, but by the inertia of a single vision made flesh. A society does not survive because it is fair. It survives because it remembers, and what it remembers is who bled for it. Founding myths are always bloody. They feature warriors, rebels, saints, and kings. Not negotiators, not therapists, not social workers. The male role in civilization is bound to sacrifice. He is taught that his worth lies not in safety, but in risk, that he may die young, and if he does, it must be for something that lasts. The battlefield, the pulpit, the architect's stone, all carry the same message. Your life ends, the city endures. This is why societies frame their identity around patriarchs. Not because every man deserves the role, but because the role itself is defined by the willingness to lose everything for the sake of the image he alone carries. Even now, when equality is doctrine and softness is virtue, we continue to demand vision from men. We still expect them to lead armies, to found movements, to shoulder the weight of unpopular truths. Our culture shames their failure, but remains quiet about their necessity. Patriarchy, then, is not a system of control. It is a system of memory, a long chain of fathers who walked into the fire and did not flinch. You do not build a nation by consensus. You build it by vision, and vision begins in solitude, matures in conflict, and triumphs in blood. That path has been walked, more often than not, by men. The patriarch is not a tyrant. He is a builder, a seer, and a martyr. If you want to see more work like this, subscribe to the channel. Share this with someone who still believes the past has something to teach us. And remember, civilization is not a committee. It is a cathedral. And someone, someday, must decide what shape its spire will take.